Critter hunter.
The scuba diving in Philippines is amazing, particularly here in Dauin. But 2025 so far has been a little rocky. As you know, in April, we lost our lease in our old location, the other resort that we were renting our buildings for our dive shop. And that led to us scrambling to find either a new location or have to close the doors permanently. But in the end, it turned out to be kind of a blessing in disguise because we ended up leasing an entire dive resort and opening our doors just a couple months ago.
There's the reception.
So now the dive resort is open, things are good to go, running smooth, we've got lots of guests running around. Things are great, but with all that busyness and progress, there was one downside, and that was I kind of let you guys down. So I haven't been able to keep up with the regular episodes. Well, in fact, I haven't posted a video in a while, and even before that, I was posting videos about building the resort, finishing the construction, you know, the business side of diving. And you hardcore subscribers, you know, we have hundreds of videos, years and years. You guys started watching for the old-fashioned critter hunting videos, you know, where we put on some gear, went out, dove, saw what we could see, came back and just threw it on the channel raw just to show you what I saw that day. And I missed that, you missed that. I've been hearing your complaints, where's the next critter video? And I feel like for you hardcore fans, I owe you one. So that's what I want to do. That's what this episode is going to be about. I want to show you all the critters we've been finding in the last, well, let's just say 2025, because we have been diving. We have been seeing cool stuff. Of course, when we opened the new location, we had to explore the reef and we're guiding. So I was still filming. I just didn't have time for all this editing. So I started going through the footage and editing this episode, and I was like, holy hell, I have terabytes of footage. There's no way to make a 20-minute video. I would have to do a 2-hour video, 8-hour video if I used it all. But I don't want to waste it. You guys, this is why some of you watch the channel for these really cool, awesome, rare species and their little funny behaviors. I don't want to just throw this footage away and start now. So let's try something new. Let's do a compilation video of all the footage I've been able to get in 2025. Now there is a lot of footage. A lot of it is going to be something you've never seen before. Certainly, I know for a fact some of these they've never been on the channel before, which is rare. I've been filming for you guys right here for 7 years, so for me to still be able to go out and find species that I've never seen, never filmed, never showed you, is still pretty rare. And we have a ton of it this year that I'm about to put on this video. So that being said, I've said it before in other episodes, it's my goal to be able to show you guys at least one species in every video that you've never seen before. Even you hardcore critter spotting, critter hunting videographers out there, I want you to watch it and be like, what the hell is that? I do it all the time. I watch Jonathan Bird or some awesome other channel and I say, yeah, I've seen that, that's cool. What the hell is that? I love it. So that's my goal for every episode, especially this one. This is a long one. It better have something, at least one, that you've never seen before. I'm gonna do this in sections, so it's just easy to organize. And this first section, let's just get it out of the way. No compilation video of Dauin's marine species would be complete without showing you the nudibranchs. Let's get into it. What you are looking at here is a species of sea slug, closely related to nudibranch that I won't even try to pronounce. Now on the critter meter, this thing is on the tiny spectrum, with the bigger one being only about 4 or 5 millimeters long. Okay, so that sounds small, I know. But you longtime watchers know that small critters are pretty dang common on this channel. In fact, this guy was one of the bigger, easier ones to film. What makes it cool though is that I don't think that I've ever been able to film this particular species for the channel. The reason being is that I have never seen it before until now. Here's what I thought was strange though. Even with hundreds and hundreds of dives here in Dauin, and even here at this particular dive site in front of the resort, I had never seen this guy. But then, this month, out of nowhere, they were there. Then a few minutes later, there was another. Then another. As if by magic, they had started to appear. Actually, they weren't even that hard to find after that, even as small as they are. So, how do we explain this? Why, after 6 years of searching, did they suddenly appear in an abundance in this one area? Another mystery for future biologists to solve. One of their distant relatives, what divers like to call leaf sheep, are much more common here. In fact, whenever someone asks to see one, we can pretty much guarantee we can find them right away. This guy's pretty unique, and compared to the average nudies, he's super long. We actually call this the dragon nudie, and I think you can see why. He's about 5 or 6 inches long, but as you can see, he's more the shape of a rope or a snake, rather than a normal round nudie. This is an example of a nudibranch that could be considered fairly common in the area. However, and I can't explain the reason for this, we only ever see them on this one dive site. On that dive site, named San Miguel, we can see a dozen or more of them, but then you go one site over, a mere 100 yards off, and with the same topography and substrate, and there will be none at all. Why is this? Here's another small mysteries about nudies that no one has explained to me yet. Unlike the dragon nudie that sticks to one dive site, this Gymnodorus species can be found nearly everywhere in Dauin at all sites. But there's a catch. They are only around for a few months and then they disappear completely. Where do they go? When they suddenly appear again, where did they come from? It's an odd thing to think that these tiny creatures who do nothing but slither slowly on the seabed could be so seasonal like a Canadian goose, but apparently they are. Frogfish have a similar mysterious habit where they come and go with the seasons, but that includes all frogfish species. In the case of this yellow Gymnodorus, it's only them, and not all of the many other nudibranch species that we see year-round. I will say this about them though, when they arrive, they arrive. All of a sudden, the seemingly barren sands of most dive sites are teeming with these yellow dots. They are either racing along the sands all day and night part of the year, or nowhere to be found at all. Trepanias are always a welcome sight, in the rare occasion we get to run into them. On the size scale, these would be on par with some of the smaller ones, but not the smallest, at a fat 3 or 4 millimeters long. One thing I like about this species of nudie is that once you find one, you can usually keep finding him there in the same place for a while. Usually on these sponges or other soft coral, I find these guys alone, and they must have plenty of food there because they'll stay for months. Sometimes I visit them once a week, and you can see them getting physically bigger. Eubrachus nudies are a unique type. They are tiny and slender-bodied, but they make it real hard for us photographers to get a good shot because they live their whole lives on the stem of stinging hydroids. These hydroids, sometimes called fire coral, are a diver's absolute nightmare. If you happen to touch one on your bare skin, it hurts like hell and stings for days. Not only that, but they can be hard to avoid because they are nearly transparent and not the easiest to see. They can also break loose the strong currents and smack you right in the face as it floats by. Like I said, it's the nightmare weed of the seas. Divers try to avoid it at all costs. Except for us dumb photographers, that is. Maybe we should shift gears and start talking about a nudie on the other end of the size spectrum. This Spanish dancer. These guys can reach a foot long or even more, and are so big that even families of shrimp can use them as a home. What I'm trying to say is that in the macro world, these behemoths are so big that their backs are used as runways for crustaceans, and they're even a favorite for divers that need those prescription glasses and tend to ignore their more tiny nudibranch brethren. Spanish dancers are pretty hard to get on camera when you happen to be diving with a 60mm macro lens, which is usually the case with me as I'm expecting much smaller creatures. But at least I can have fun filming their little shrimp buddies as they get taxied around the sands. Nudibranchs and snails are related. I mean, they're both mollusks, but it seems that evolution found nudibranchs losing their shells, while snails kept them. Sundial snails are a unique species in their own right, and fun to see. As you might have noticed, the way that sundials move around is completely unique. Unlike the many regular snails running around here, these guys look like their shell is laying on its side instead of standing straight up. I was pretty amazed the first time I saw it too. Now this weird nudibranch goes to show you how many varieties of nudies there are in the world, as this one seems to have a Bob Marley dreadlocks. I know that this isn't some high quality footage, but sometimes that's how it goes. But even when it's not the greatest, sometimes we see stuff that you just can't help but share. Sometimes it's interesting to just sit there with the camera and see what they're gonna do. And I'll be honest, even after watching them for a while, I still have no idea what this guy's doing or thinking. So a nudibranch like this is unique in characteristics. There's a few similar species that look kind of similar, but them and this one is very rare. And in fact, this dive was the first time I saw this particular one, and when it comes to critter hunting, I'm always on the lookout for something new to film. I guess since we're talking about nudies with dreadlocks, I'll show you a recent discovery we had here. This is an awesome example of a nudibranch that is an expert at camouflage. I think he would be the envy of any sniper in a ghillie suit because they've developed a natural ability to blend in perfectly with soft corals via serrata that match them perfectly. Now I got lucky on this night dive and was able to catch this guy out in the sand away from his habitat. Otherwise, it would be impossible to discern what was coral and what was nudibranch. Now this Philadelphia is actually pretty huge, all told about the size of a baseball, but this next one is about half the size of a BB from a kid's BB gun. It's a dotto nudibranch, and these funny little guys also live on hydroids and other soft corals their whole lives. As you can see in this case of this dude, he's just finishing laying a tiny ribbon of eggs, and most of the time when I find one, there's also more nearby. At the bottom of the stem, I saw more of them, and even smaller than the rest. You can see for yourself the strange body type of these little dudes, with the serrata in the shape of tiny little balls. And if the skeleton shrimp stops photobombing us, we can see that there is actually a lot of egg laying going on in this relatively small area. As far as nudibranchs go, it's always fun to find ones that are different than the norm, like these dudes. These dotto species are one of those that stick together and are not solitary individuals like some nudies. Maybe that's why whenever I see them, there's always egg ribbons nearby. I have seen 2 nudies mating, then within the hour, both are laying eggs. I couldn't believe how fast it all went.
the same case with these nudies. Although they are huge, if you put them next to those datos, they're obviously too big to live on those soft coral branches. But they too are nearly always seen in at least 2 or more.
I have a ton of footage of marine flatworms, but if I used it all, this compilation video would be a few hours long. So I think I will save the rest for another time, and just suffice it to say that nudibranchs and sea slugs aren't the only weirdos in the seas. Yeah, so as you can see from that first section, there is a huge variety of nudibranch species, and that's what we all love. Like I said, people come from all over the world. They're emailing me from South Africa, from Utah, from wherever, asking me about different species of nudies, different seasons, whatever. And they're coming here and they're saying, can you find this? And we do. So that being said, another thing that photographers love about nudibranch is they're so dang easy to film or photograph. You know, they'll just sit there in front of the camera for as long as you want. Or, you know, maybe they'll move, but it's not hard to follow these dudes. They're not running around. No matter how big or small, they get pretty small. That's the biggest challenge. But they don't move. They pose for the camera. As opposed to, you know, some species where you're just like, hold still, hold still. All right, I got 2 seconds of footage. It's a low-hanging fruit for photographers, and they're beautiful. Everything comes together. That being said, you don't come here and film something and you don't like something just because it's easy. If I want to find something that's just as interesting, well, let's be real, more interesting than a little slug that doesn't do anything, but just as interesting when it comes to color patterns, varieties, weirdness, but a lot harder to find and film, I go with crustaceans. We're gonna start this one out with the banger. The harlequin shrimp is one of the most famous and sought after shrimp species in the whole world, and every year I'm lucky enough to run into a few of them. This particular Harley was unique for me because the day before, my spotters had seen 2 adults in the area that had eggs. So I went back to film them, and the parents and eggs were gone, but this very tiny, newly hatched baby was still there. I've never been able to film such a tiny Harley.
Now I know that this particular baby harlequin is super tiny, but you should also take note how he really hasn't developed his colors yet. You see, harlequin shrimp almost exclusively only eat starfish, and around here we mainly have 2 colors of stars, blues and reds. Now whatever color the Harley is eating regularly is the color that his spots will morph into. This adult has developed some bright colors and looks great. And as is normal with these guys, there's a pair of them, not just one. But it wasn't just mom and dad in this den, they had a small juvenile with them as well. These guys will find a big starfish, and if they can handle it, they'll flip it upside down and take it back to the den to feast on for days. If it's too big, I've seen them sit for hours sawing off one leg and using that for a buffet. Whatever they do, they're beautiful and a favorite for us divers.
A more common sight around here than a harlequin are the big mantis shrimp. Now I can't be absolutely certain, but I'm pretty sure that these mantis species are the biggest shrimp species there is. Compared to every other crustacean, these guys are absolute giants. They are fierce hunters as well. I've seen them take down an octopus twice as big as themselves. Now this golden mantis, I've seen them get about 2 feet long when I've seen them outside their holes, and almost the same diameter as an old Folgers coffee can. Tiger mantises, golden and peacock mantises get this big, but there are actually a lot of different species of them, many of which are actually pretty small.
Be careful getting too close to these, as a punch from one can break a camera lens.
What really makes them awesome in my book are their crazy eyes. Some are oblong with pointed ends, some are skateboard shaped, and some are completely circle.
The mantis shrimp has some of the most advanced eyes in the animal kingdom. Each eye can move independently and contains up to 16 color receptors, compared to our 3. They can detect ultraviolet, polarized, and even circularly polarized light, giving them vision so complex that scientists are still trying to fully understand it.
When I was filming some of these dudes, I always see the skeleton shrimp hanging out in the sand, nearly invisible to the naked eye. When I started filming this one in particular, I noticed that clinging to every part of its body are little tiny baby skeleton shrimp. There's not a lot of research into these little dudes, but I'll tell you one thing that I do know for sure. If you're a skeleton shrimp mother, you better hope that you don't get the babysitting shift, because this does not look fun to me.
I have seen some fierce battles among skeleton shrimp, with males protecting their girls. Well, as fierce as a creature the size of a human hair can get. What I truly find interesting is when I get down low to the ground and focus my eyes on these guys and can observe thousands of them, seemingly in their own little macroverse. There's all kinds of dramas and things happening that most humans will never get to know about. A minute ago, we were talking about a creature so small and plentiful that no one really knows what they get up to all day. Well, here's another one. The hairy shrimp, or sometimes called an algae shrimp, is not normally found in groups like the skeleton, and they tend to be found clinging to stems of grass. As you know, we have large fields of grass out front of the resort, which is why we have so many turtles, but also means we can always find lots of these tiny hairies. Although these are really hard to find, even knowing where they are, the reddish brown ones are the most common, while these green ones are the ones I try to seek out the most, as they're the most rare. They also seem to be slightly larger than the red ones, although extremely small and nearly impossible to see with the naked eye unless they move. And when they do move, it looks like another floating piece of algae. You want to see something truly tiny that only a macro lens can pick up? Take a look at the back of that shrimp, and you'll see he's holding a bunch of eggs under his tail. I actually see these guys quite often, but they're really shy and difficult to film. However, they're super colorful, so one day I just sat there for nearly 30 minutes just trying to get them on the lens for you. Look inside any overhang or den on any dive site here, and you're definitely going to find these banded coral shrimp. Although you will see every generation of them from big to small, at fully grown, these are one of the biggest shrimp I can film, and the most prolific by far. These guys are everywhere, so subsequently tend to get overlooked, but sometimes I need to show you the cool stuff, not only the ultra rare. Here's yet another species that has been on my critter bucket list of things I want to film, yet have never been able to find, until now. So the funny story here is, if you remember right, when we first got our new resort, we spent a week clearing a path through the rocks to make a nice entry for divers, right out front. At the time of doing that, there was absolutely no life at all in that rock area. When we cleared the path, we made a wall on each side, and within a week, tons of different species of stuff made the wall their home. And lo and behold, so did a bunch of these bumblebee shrimp, which I have been searching for years. Now I have seen 10 at once, just steps from the beach. It's amazing. If you're a diver in a hurry to see some interesting crab action, these porcelain crabs are found on nearly every anemone in Dauin. You boys out there that are slightly visually impaired will also be glad to know that these dudes are perfectly sized to see easily and not our usual macro wonders. These crabs are odd in a way. As you can see, to catch sediment for a meal, they kind of expose themselves at the edge of a swaying anemone, making themselves more vulnerable. Their shells are actually not hard shields. They are breakable, hence the name porcelain. Now the anemone does protect him at night or whenever he's sleeping and more hidden in those toxic arms. It'll even grow back later on like it never happened. But his other deterrent is that he could get an arm or a claw bitten off and he'll be fine. While you're freaking out the anemone fish by staring at those porcelain crabs, don't forget to look around at a few of the other residents, such as these shrimp. This glass shrimp, or sometimes called anemone shrimp, was on the same anemone home as the porcelain crab. So if you're a photographer, one anemone can give you lots of critter subjects. Check out this teddy bear. I'd love to be able to film him one day when he's not making a beeline and makes it easier to film. If you see these strange looking soft corals that look something like out of a Nintendo Mario game, take a close look at some of those polyps and you might find one of my all-time favorite crustaceans, the candy crab. By now, I don't need to tell you how good the camouflage abilities are for some of the creatures out there, and these candy crabs are up there with the best. Try finding these little dudes among the fray if you're a predator. You'll go hungry searching. I learned something interesting when researching this crab. Did you know that candy crabs are actually monotypic? This means that they are the only species of their kind. Their scientific name is actually Hoplophorus otisci, but what makes them loners is that they are the only species in the entire genus of Hoplophorus. I've never heard of this before. For example, the mantis shrimp, whose Latin name is, which I cannot pronounce, so I'll put it on the screen. There are at least 8 other known species of shrimp. To me, that means that the candy crab demands its own category after scientists checked its DNA and found it to be a league of its own. I know most people, when they see a crab like this, start thinking about the camouflage in the crab world and things like that. But great camo is not uncommon in my Critterverse, and the thing that pops into my mind is I wonder what it would be like to be that small and able to hide in that xenia coral, having those little fingers both hide as well as caress me all day. I wonder what they even feel like. Are they slimy? Or are they itchy and weird? I need to know. There are a bunch of different kinds of protector and coral crabs in the mini staghorn corals around here, most of which are brown and bland and not very desirable to film. But when I saw this little fuzzy guy with his pretty blue eyes, I knew that you guys would want to see him. Check out this little squat lobster I found. Somehow, he was able to grab a tiny plankton out of the water for a snack. Must be nice to just have snacks floating past your head, ready for the taking. The dude was sitting on some kind of hydroid soft coral, enjoying life at the buffet. And his neighbor, just a little ways up the road, was this transparent glass shrimp, whom I usually see on anemones, but who must have got kicked out for bad behavior and banished to this place with the squat lobsters. I couldn't tell you where crabs and shrimp sleep all day, but I can say that this little bubble coral crab surely must have the most comfortable accommodations in the ocean. I mean, look at him. He literally spends his entire life living on a bunch of pillows. If you look close enough, you can see that this dude is actually carrying a bunch of eggs that are attached under its tail. I can't even imagine how tiny those baby shrimp would be when they hatch. If you want to get even more jealous of these guys, all you have to do is realize how much of a peaceful life of solitude they must live in. They are not found in groups, and I never see other crustaceans sharing their little bubble homes. And they really have no bills or responsibilities at all beyond getting something to eat. Which doesn't seem like an issue, given the lack of effort it's making. I want to be this guy when I grow up. Remember the harlequin shrimp and that porcelain crab? Well, this dude is something in between called a harlequin crab. No, this guy might not live in anemones or have those catcher mitt looking arms or big claws. But to me, he still looks a lot like the porcelain crab, only with a little more color and pizzazz. As opposed to the porcelain crab, who doesn't seem to care about much, harlequins seem much more docile and spend their days trying to hide, at least when I come around with the lights and camera. They are also located on different types of anemones than the porcelain, as well as giant sea pins and other soft corals, either hiding among the arms itself or burying themselves in the sand at the bottom. Now, for the life of me, I cannot figure out why this has been nicknamed a Donald Duck shrimp. Maybe some of you could tell me. On this sea pin that we mostly just see at night, I found another glass shrimp. I guess maybe he got deported from the normal sea anemone that we normally see them residing at. He wasn't totally alone though, because just above there was this cool looking crab that I suspect must be another species of harlequin. And keeping to the same theme of trying to give you an idea of critter sizes, these were both maybe the size of a US dime. An odd thing about this big sea pin is that they only come out at night. During the day they retract down into the sand and hide all day, presumably taking their little inhabitants with them. Then at night, they fully blossom and start catching sediment out of the water column. That's why I love night diving. You see a lot weirder stuff. Uh-oh. Once again, we're getting deep into the camouflage critter realm again. Let's see if you can find this amazing shrimp. You're probably amazed at this guy's ability to adapt his colors and patterns and even textures to perfectly match his habitat, and if you are, you're not alone. These guys are not so tiny by comparison, but they're always in a difficult spot to film. The genus Allia porcellana currently includes about 8 species, all small, delicate, and symbiotic with sessile invertebrates, such as corals, sponges, and sea fans. If you're lucky, you can find them in all kinds of colors and textures, blending in with their various habitats. Unlike some filter-feeding crustaceans, This tiny shrimp needs to stay focused on clinging to its xenia host, or risk being swept away by the current. Perhaps because of this, they have tiny hairs all over their body that traps floating sediment and particles, and the shrimp can simply sit there picking food out of his hair. Hermit crabs must be some of the most prolific in all of the seas. You can find them in all kinds of previously abandoned snail shells. The one I'm showing you now is one of the biggest species I've seen here, and at night, they're everywhere, wandering the sands. These are a bit of a decorator crab as well. What I mean is, it is not enough to just get inside a shell to feel secure. Sometimes they also feel the need to disguise or camouflage themselves a little, so they attach little bits of stinging anemone to their shell. This helps them to blend into the substrate, but also certain predators stay away from those stings. This is a tiny shell. Is there a snail inside? Nope. Yet again, this hermit has acquired a shell as a home. So the shells will stop growing when the snail dies. So, as the hermit grows, they are forced to find bigger and bigger homes. At all times, if a hermit is not searching for food, he's always on the lookout for a new house upgrade. There are a ton of different cowries in the ocean, and if you are scuba diving in Dauin, you are bound to run into any number of them of all shapes and sizes. This egg cowrie is surely the smallest one that I can encounter, and always a beauty to film. They can be found living together on soft corals with candy crabs, a species of soft coral that I can't even begin to pronounce, but you'll know it when you see it. These are called sexy shrimp, and they aren't just beautiful, they're brave. Each one forms a delicate partnership with its host anemone, finding shelter while keeping the anemone clean of debris. It's a relationship built on trust and survival. Although the anemone is venomous, it doesn't harm the shrimp, providing it with a safe home. In the critter capital of the Philippines, these flamboyant dancers remind us that even the smallest creatures can steal the spotlight. These are called sexy shrimp because of their sexy little dance they do, shaking their uplifted tail all day, either to attract mates or to warn off predators or both. It lives in that symbiotic relationship with sea anemones, coral amorphs, or soft corals like xenia and other ones. Doing so, the shrimp gains protection from the stinging tentacles while helping clean debris or remove parasites from the host. Just like so many other crustaceans, they live together in symbiosis, helping each other survive, one acting as a cleaner while the other the protector. As small as they are, sexy shrimp are among the most common critters on any dive site. They're nearly never found alone either. They tend to have one dominant female around, and a bunch of smaller males sharing a single host anemone. Anemones are a great source for photographers who want to get a lot of shots of various species all in one small area. The same anemone that might be host to 10 or 20 of those sexy shrimp might also be hosting a few of those porcelain crabs that we saw earlier, and a few different types of glass shrimp. This peacock anemone shrimp will be rubbing shoulders with any number of other colorful creatures that are ready to be on camera. It's seldom when you can get multiple subjects that are abundant in one small area, as well as cooperative and not too shy for the camera. Something a little harder to find, and usually during a night dive, is these interesting looking arrowhead crabs. They can be found under overhangs or little dens, and they're great at blending in, as they look just like the branches of some coral. As you can see with this guy, they also have little hairs all over their body that catches tiny sediment from the currents, and they can be seen sitting around picking their meals out of their hair. Reminds me of my uncle and his crumb-catching beard. For one last critter in this section, I thought I'd show you one of the strangest dang crustaceans you'll ever see. It's the weird stuff like this that makes me love diving at night, because that is the only time you see a lot of these weirdos.
So how was that? Did you see any crabs or shrimp that you've never seen before? There's certainly ones that have never been on this channel, so I hope they were at least interesting. I love crabs and shrimp. They're just every day. Even this is done. I'm editing the final version right now. We went for a break, took a dive, and I filmed more. I'm like, what? How? Like, I have 1,000 dives here, and I still see something new every dive. And that being said, everything that I'm able to find or film and show you guys is still a small fraction of what I actually see. You know, I'm like, oh, look, there's a really rare crab I've never filmed before. By the time I get the light on and get focused, it's gone. I can't film it. Or I see something, I don't even bother. It's about to hide, it's in a bad spot, whatever. There's just so many things I just wish I could film for you guys. But it gives you an idea of what you're gonna see if you're diving and you go out and, you know, you're not trying to get like all this footage. So anyways, that's a good little intro to crabs and shrimp of Dauin. Let's move on. This next section, we're getting into not just my favorite species, but everybody's favorite subspecies, you know, category or whatever. Everybody. All right. I'm talking octopus, I'm talking cuttlefish, and I'm talking squids. Does it get any better than that? Let's see. In this section, you will witness some of my favorite critters with me. First and foremost, the wonderpuss. Now these are no strangers to this channel, as we seek them out regularly, and in the months of October, November, and even December, we can find multiple ones on a daily basis. I remember on one particular dive, I saw no less than 35 octopus in one 60-minute dive, with 6 of them being wonderpusses themselves. The wonderpuss is one of the ocean's most fascinating little predators. They're found across the Indo-Pacific and obviously right here in Dauin. It's known for its long, thin arms and bold orange and white patterns that seem to change before your eyes. Each wonderpuss has a unique pattern, almost like a fingerprint, making it easy for scientists to identify individuals. By day, they often hide in the sand or in small burrows, poking their head out to watch for crabs, shrimp, and small fish. Or if they have to, they'll glide around the seafloor using their arms like nets. I've seen them hover over a crab and envelop it with its arms and pin it to its mouth where it can nibble away. What's especially amazing is how gracefully they move, gliding and flowing across the seabed with a slow, mesmerizing rhythm. And as you can see, they sport those color-changing abilities that cephalopods are known for, using them to either blend in, dazzle their prey, or confuse their predators. The first time I saw a wonderpuss, I was very surprised at how small they actually are. Filming them with the macro lens really doesn't show the true size, it just looks big. But their entire body, if you rolled it into a ball, legs and all, would barely be bigger than a golf ball.
When you think of octopuses, maybe from a David Attenborough documentary, you picture them being size of a basketball. They never truly cover these tiny guys that we have in Dauin on those Netflix documentaries. Although coconut octopuses aren't as colorful as most other species, they are a big favorite for divers just because of their funny behaviors. At nearly all times, you'll see them using shells or coconut pieces or old cans or whatever as makeshift shelters, just like this guy's doing now. Now, coconut octopus get quite a bit bigger than wonderpusses and blue rings, maybe even 4 or 5 times their size. As I have said, we have a lot of different octopus species around Dauin, and once you start to learn their individual behaviors, it will make each of them easier to find. For example, a mimic will be shy and just poke his eyes out of the sand. A blue ring or matodi will sit out in the open on a rock, perfectly mimicking that rock so that you can barely see him unless he moves. The coconut puss puts a lot of faith in whatever they decide to make their home, so you'll see them poking their heads out of old Spam cans, half a coconut shell, a clam shell, or anything else they fancy. When we first ran into this guy, he must have been in between homes, and we caught him out in the open. He made us all laugh at our regulators, probably like you're laughing at him now, as we watched him use 2 or 3 of his tentacles as legs and walk around the seabed like a human. Why doesn't he just swim off? Have you ever seen an octopus walk around upright like Squidward from SpongeBob? After a while, he stopped walking around, so I offered him a clamshell I found. At first, it seemed like he wasn't interested, but eventually he just couldn't help himself and moved right in. With his arms, he attaches his suction cups to the shell and puts them around his body like shields. Once he was moved into his new house, he decided he didn't like the neighborhood, and luckily for him, it was a mobile home. He's free to move locations, house and all, but for this big shell, it might take all 8 legs to walk to the new suburb. This has to take a bit of coordination. I can barely handle 2 feet sometimes. I'm gonna let this guy go for now. He clearly is going to want to take a nap after all this house moving. Algae and long-arm octopuses are 2 separate species that can be very hard to tell apart. They also show up at the same time as wonderpusses and blue rings around October, and can even be seen real near each other, making it even more hard to discern them apart. As I've said, octopus season gets hot from October to December, and we can see loads of them. I will put a list of known octopus species that have been spotted here, most of which are fairly common during the time. I think I mentioned before that each species has its own personality and traits and behaviors, not to mention how different they are in appearance. What does this mean to me personally? Well, in both the nudibranch and the crustacean section of this video, I probably mentioned that because of the huge number of individual and unique species of each of the genres, every dive is like a treasure hunt, and you never know what you're gonna find. Take birding for comparison. Birders have their list of bird species that they want to observe in the wild, and it's no different for us divers. The only real difference is we have way more species to hunt for, In fact, no diver will ever see them all, so the real fun is in the journey.
This guy was playing hide and seek like a pro when I came up. It's amazing how he can mimic every grain of sand and little pebble around him, making him nearly impossible to see. He's a pretty shy dude as well. This lionfish would love to take a bite out of an octopus. They're known for wandering around the rubble and snatching little fish or an octopus leg here and there. This dude better stay hidden.
Besides wonderpusses, my other favorites are blue rings, and they're even smaller. These guys deserve a video of their own, so I'm going to save the rest of my blue ring footage for an upcoming episode. I wish I could identify this species, but it seems it was a young juvenile that's been hanging around the area, sort of like a nursery.
Cuttlefish are cool, but there is nothing as awesome as a flamboyant cuttlefish. These guys are currently tied with the wonderpuss as my all-time favorite creature of the sea, and since I see them more often, they might even be winning at this point. I mean, who wouldn't love a face like this? Unlike most cuttlefish, it walks on the sea floor using its arms and ventral fins rather than swimming continuously. This is due to its limited buoyancy, as its cuttlebone is reduced and porous, making it too dense for neutral buoyancy. So if you're a good diver, you can say you have better buoyancy than a flamboyant. Now let's get a little scientific here. Flamboyant cuttlefish have 3 layers of skin cells responsible for its crazy color changes. Chromatophores, or pigment sacs, iridophores, reflective platelets producing iridescence, and leucophores, basically white scattering cells. They can flash complex color displays in milliseconds using neuro control over chromatophore expansion mediated by motor neurons from the optic lobes. Those color patterns are used for camouflage or communication and predator deterrence. However, after lots of observation over the years, I've seen them do a flashing, crazy strobe kind of thing when they see a shrimp they're about to eat, and it appears to me that they're trying to mesmerize the shrimp for a second so that it doesn't move. Kind of like hypnotizing it. Whatever the reason, anything these guys do is awesome.
Flambos are actually toxic to eat. Scientists still don't know the exact nature of its toxin, but it's believed to rival that of the blue ring octopus. Being toxic or poisonous actually makes a little sense, because in my experience, there's 3 types of fish in the world. They're either really fast swimmers, or really good hiders, or they're toxic. And for what I've seen, you can usually tell the ones that are toxic because they sport bright colors to advertise so. Same with nudibranch and other critters out there.
I also ran into this flambeau. What's interesting about this dude is he must have been attacked by an eel or something at some point, because he seems to be missing his tentacle, and this can make life a little more difficult when you need to do some walking. Regular cuttlefish like these broad clubs are much more common. I've even seen them in spread out groups of maybe 20 or 30 in just a 20-foot radius. Although flamboyants are the only known cuttlefish to be toxic, broad clubs have a lot of similar traits, starting with that camo ability that cephalopods love.
and that we're all fascinated by. They're also the type to walk along the seafloor rather than swim. However, when spooked, they do have the ability to dart away, more like a squid would. The way they swim reminds me of a jet ski. As you can see, they don't have a tail like most fish. Rather, they have jets, where they blow out water enough to propel themselves backwards away from the predator. When broadclubs are younger, they tend to be solitary, and then they do not have that confidence that being in groups gives you. They tend to be much more shy, like this little guy. I did mention squid before, so obviously we need to show them here. This is a reef squid, and on the size chart, this particular one is maybe 5 inches long. However, they do get slightly bigger. They are easier to film at night, because they like to use our lights to hunt. But even during the day, I've encountered schools of 100 or more just hovering around outside the resort, at around 5 or 10 meters. Bobtail squids don't just show up for cephalopod season starting in October. They can be found in the shallow sands and grassy areas on a lot of different dive sites in Dauin year-round. If you really want to film these tiny wonders, I'll go do a night dive out in front of Critter Republic Resort and just search the grasses. You have to be quick though, because as soon as the light hits them, they're famous for burying themselves in the sand and using 2 arms to cover themselves up.
All right, so up until now, we've been talking about very specific categories, very specific genres and subspecies of little fish that, like nudibranch, crustaceans, cephalopods, very narrow in general. In this next section, I don't know, if I was gonna put it in like a category, maybe I'd just call it reef fish or general fish or etc. These are the ones that get ignored. These are the ones I go out every day. I'm like, get out of my way, get out of my way. I'm looking for a rare species of shrimp or something. These are the ones I take for granted because I see them so often. But then I'm reminded that not everybody is out there every day. Not everybody is diving all the time. And it's usually because yesterday a guest said, hey, can you show me some clownfish? And I'm like, you came all the way here for clownfish? I'll show you 100 on your first dive. I didn't even think about that. It just makes me remember that even if I don't find it interesting just because it's in my face all day, doesn't mean you guys won't. So in this section, I want to show you I don't want you to miss the forest through the trees. I want to get into it and show you the little reef fish. It's either in the reef or the muck. Anyways, just stuff that's not on your bucket list that probably should be, that you've probably seen if you're diving a lot, but maybe I don't know. Let's see. This might be cool. It might be something that you've never seen before. So let me know. Let's get into it.
Dauin has become world famous as a premier muck diving destination, because of the huge number of rare species here. But what many don't know is that it also has some world-class reef sites where you'll feel like you are diving in an aquarium, where the reef and the reef fish are abundant. That being said, what I really want to do in this episode is to really highlight some of those individual residents so that we don't miss the forest through the trees. Take this little lizardfish, for example. While you are busy floating around, acting like you're living in a screensaver reefscape, these little dudes are scattered all over the place, just sitting there watching you ignore them. There are a bunch of different species of lizards, and this one is a typical kind that you'll find in both muck and reef dive sites. You'll have to get away from the coral-covered grounds and out in the sands, where you're likely to run into some weird little sea moths. These guys are aptly named for the Greek winged horse, for reasons that I don't think I need to explain here. What is interesting about them, and most mucky creatures, is that they spend their lives walking or sitting on the seafloor, and in their case, they have some great camouflage colorations to match that sand. These dudes are monogamous, so if you find one, be sure to look around, as there's almost always another one nearby. Lionfish are a super common sighting when scuba diving in the Philippines, and you're going to see any number of species here in Dauin. They're an ambush predator, known to be sitting around waiting for some fish to get close enough to snap up, and they aren't that shy when a diver comes around either. There are about 8 to 10 different species of lionfish around the Philippines, and if you look long enough, you'll probably find each of them here. It's always nice to see these colorful and flamboyant creatures hanging around. This guy was a little more aggressive, doing some hunting himself rather than wait. Maybe he hadn't had his fish tacos for breakfast yet. As this video goes on, I'm starting to realize that there are a lot of different types of fish that prefer to sit in the sand, or walk around on their pectoral fins rather than swim. These lionfish are another example of that. This species is probably my favorite lion, and most beautiful. You can see he too is busy staring at some little gobies, hoping one gets close. Here is what he's looking at. I think they're a little too smart though, and are always on the watch to make sure he doesn't get too close. These of course are highly invasive in the Caribbean, and it's legal to spear as many lionfish as you can find there. But here they're in their natural habitat, and as you can see from this video alone, the reef fish are not dwindled by its presence, even with so many lions around. Take a look at this guy's tail. Besides the main spines, his fins and tail are all transparent and look pretty cool flapping through the water. This is a leaf scorpion fish, and he's actually been in this spot for about 6 months. There's actually 2 of them here together, and whenever we are nearby, we give them a little visit. This is one of those quiet show-offs of the sandy seabed. This small dragonet grows to around 6 inches at best and lives across the Indo-Pacific, including here in Dauin. You'll often find it creeping slowly over the sand or rubble, blending in with a mix of white, orange, and black streaks. Males show off tall, dramatic dorsal fins lined with orange and black, which they use to display to impress the girls or intimidate the boys. Like most dragonets, it's a bottom dweller, feeding on tiny crustaceans and worms it finds by sifting in the sand. I often see them sucking in tiny snails with those pointy little lips. They're shy, often alone or in pairs, but patient divers can spot them by their subtle movements and vivid patterns. On particularly sandy sites, you might see lots of tiny heads poking out of the sand, or you might just see a whole bunch of small, empty holes dotting the sand. Those are from these sand divers, technically another species of lizardfish, who spend their day as an ambush hunter buried in the sand. I was lucky enough to find this guy completely out of his hole. I don't think I ever talked about these in any episode before, probably just because they're so common that I tend to skip over them on a dive and look for something you probably haven't seen before. But eventually, we're gonna have to talk about the clownfish. There are a lot of different types of divers that join us here in Dauin, and believe it or not all of them are camera-toting weirdos who like to spend the whole dive staring in the sand. These are the people that frequently ask us to show them Nemo or some turtle and other stuff that I see so often that I kind of take for granted. Well,
There's 5 or 6 clownfish species just right out front of the resort, and lots of each of them. They are one of those species that our guides can confidently say are a guaranteed sighting. And if there are a lot of clownfish out there, there's even more anemones, where they call home. If you see a clown, there'll always be an anemone. But on the flip side, not all anemones have clownfish. Not only do I not know the name of this species, but I don't even know what to say about it. Behavior-wise, he's one of the strangest fish I've seen. I wasn't able to film it, but I even saw him laying in the bottom, flat on his side, acting like my dog Louie, just being lazy. I never saw a fish do that, and it was hilarious. It was almost like he wanted a tummy rub. Did you know that Dauin is actually the frogfish capital of the Philippines? And since Philippines is more than most countries, we might as well say that Dauin is the frogfish capital of the world. Yeah, we have a lot of them. During certain seasons, you could see 5 or 15 or even 30 in a single dive, of all sorts of colors and species varieties. When they really start showing up, you could also see that it coincides with the bloom of skeleton shrimp, which are the main food for baby frogs. Is that a coincidence that tiny newborn frogs happen to appear at the same time as their food source? I don't know. During that time, if you look close, you'll see billions of them all over the sands, and many times you'll see tiny frogs, no bigger than half a pinky fingernail, sitting there at the buffet. The food is so plentiful, in fact, that the same frogfish will stay in the same spot for many weeks sometimes, and we can go down and keep visiting the same one. Here's another frogfish species, and when possible, and when I remember, I try to give you an idea of sizes by using my golf ball on a stick as a reference. As small as this guy is, he's about average. Of course, the giant and the shaggy frogfish can get the size of a basketball, but most are much smaller, maybe averaging a baseball size.
These particular spot-fin frogfish are among the more rare type, but we can see clown frogfish, giants, and a couple others all over the place and in various different color patterns. These Randall's frogfish are even more rare because out of the many dives in the area, I've only seen them maybe a handful of times. I was actually filming something else when right next to my elbow I seen him hop out from behind a rock and wander off. I don't see many Randalls, and I've also never seen any frog in this light, ugly brown. So of course I stopped filming whatever I was filming and focused on this guy for a minute. These two shaggy frogfish are sorta special. This is the one and only time I've seen them, and as far as I know, that anyone has ever seen them around Dauin. One of our friends found them out in a random area, and when they showed me the photos, I had to go get them on camera, and on this channel for the first time. Not only were these guys first and only shaggy frogfish ever found in the region, they're also the biggest frogfish I've ever seen. They were actually in this area for about a month, so as I kept visiting them, I could actually see them getting bigger and bigger. Here's another first for the channel, As shy as these guys normally are, we finally got one on camera during a night dive. We recently had a guest who had an ornate ghost pipefish tattoo, and it's his favorite species. And because of that, I was reminded to show some footage of a few that we have. This particular one was carrying a pouch full of eggs, so I spent the dive with a macro lens, just trying to get a few seconds of video of them. Ornates are abundant here, but there are a large variety of pipefish and seahorses here. It's always nice to have options, and never run out of new things to see on a dive. These ornates form their colors at a young age, whenever they finally find a host home, and match that color and texture. So that being said, they obviously come in many different colors, so I advise putting these dudes on the top of your bucket list to see them for yourself sometime. This soon-to-be mother measures about 4 inches tall, so still pretty small. But for now, let's go on the other side of the size spectrum and check out the big boys of muck diving. Eels. There are a bunch of different kinds of eels around this area, from morays to garden eels and everything in between. And sometimes they make for interesting film subjects. For instance, check out this guy's weird nostrils. Actually, eels generally have a very poor eyesight, but they have excellent smell. They can be seen swimming in and out of crevices and holes, sniffing out their prey. They are also one of those weird fish that do not have scales and just sport a slimy body, which makes it easier getting in and out of holes, I suspect. The ribbon eel is by far my favorite. These guys are very unique looking, and they have some weird traits as well. Oddly, all ribbon eels are born as males, and they are black. After some time, some of them morph into females and turn blue. Occasionally, some of these blue girls will even turn into pure yellow, which I have yet to see here in Dauin, but I'm always on the lookout for. So of course the juvenile black ones are the most common, but we get to see a few of the females here each year as well. I know these guys act funny, but he's not trying to talk. He's moving a lot to get more water and oxygen through his gills.
Alright, real quick, how is this for a coincidence? So I'm editing this video that you're watching. It's almost done. I mean, I literally have, well, you can see how long it is. There's hundreds, maybe 1,000 clips or more. It's just taken me all month, and I'm almost done. I have like one more day left. And I just got done saying in this last clip that I've never seen a yellow ribbon eel, like ever. I saw one years and years ago on a different country, and I've been searching them forever. I have 1,000 dives right out here, and I've just never seen one ever. We've seen the black ones and the blue ones, of course, but never. And then today I took a break from editing. We just went out right here, right in front of the resort. Judea, show the water. Okay. And guess what? There's a freaking yellow ribbon eel. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm almost done with this, and if I could get any critter to add to this video, I would want it to be the yellow ribbon eel. So I can't believe, like, I put the photo on Facebook, and my friend's like, oh, we got one down here too. We've never seen one ever. And just down the road there's another one. So that's insane. Anyway, let me get to the footage. I literally sat down there for like 40 minutes just filming this guy, and it's been raining, so there's really bad visibility and stuff, but there's a yellow ribbon eel, and what a coincidence, it's in front of my freaking resort. So that is awesome. First time 10 years in Philippines, 1,000 dives in the same spot, and there it is, just after I was telling you guys I've never seen one. Gotta love it.
Like I was saying, this is just perfect timing to find a yellow ribbon eel right when I was about to finish this documentary without it. And on top of that, it was right out in front of the resort. You can see why these are my favorite eel species. There are just so many interesting things about them. Like I mentioned before, these dudes are protandric hermaphrodites, meaning they are all born male and then later transition to female. And they are also the only one I know that does this gender transformation at the same time as a complete color change.
Snowflake morays are much more common, and during the day we see them hiding in burrows with their heads poking out. While at night or evening they can be seen swimming freely and hunting the reef.
Let's not forget the various snake eels hanging around, all kinds of flavors and types, from this reptilian snake eel to this Napoleon snake eel. We find them all the time poking their heads out of the sand. But don't let this cute little face fool you. I've seen these guys dart out of the hole and take down an unsuspecting octopus twice their size.
This might look like a sea crate, and that's the point. This is actually a mimic eel that tries his best to look like a venomous sea snake, but in the end is nothing but an eel. Maybe that's what gives this guy the confidence to swim around freely, as opposed to hiding in holes like the others do.
If you look closely in front of this snake eel, you will see lots of small gobies and other fish darting out of its way, letting him go past before returning to their home. Maybe, because of their poor eyesight, the eel is more interested in an easy meal, such as a sleeping fish or some crab that's just sitting there, putting no effort in their escape. So if that guy was mimicking a poisonous sea snake, you can see how similar they look to the real thing. This guy is also hunting along the bottom, but for much bigger fish. We all know that these sea kraits are among the most venomous in the world, but I have also heard an untrue myth that says that their mouth is so small that they can never bite a human. That's definitely false, as I've seen them bite and swallow an entire eel who was bigger than they were.
So in one area, just in front of the resort, there are a bunch of little holes in the seafloor with little piles of shells and dead corals stacked around them. And these holes are living the jawfish. It's funny seeing them all poking their heads out of their holes like a community. Sometimes I even see them coming out of their hole with a mouthful of sand or debris and spitting it out nearby, obviously making their hole bigger or doing some housekeeping. If you just sit back a ways, you could just watch the daily routines of this funny critter. There are a lot of wrasse species wandering around the corals and rock formations. Sometimes I like to sit and watch them too, just to see what they're up to.
There's about 80 described species of jawfish across the globe, and they come in all sorts of color patterns. The one thing though that they have in common is that they're all mouth brooders, not just the ones we have here. They will keep a ball of eggs in their mouth, constantly rotating them around to aerate them with oxygen up until they hatch in its mouth and they swim off. Even as just a normal diver, let me tell you why it's important for you to keep on discovering and observing new marine life for yourself. Every time we discover a new fish, we uncover another piece of the ocean's story. Each species, no matter how small or strange, plays a role in the balance of the reef. By finding and documenting new fish, scientists learn how ecosystems connect, how coral reefs change, and how climate shifts affect life underwater. It also helps protect what we might otherwise lose. You can't conserve a creature that hasn't been named. And as someone famous once said, before you can save a species, you must love it. And before you love a species, you must know that it exists in the first place. So I want you to go out there and see what exists, dive buddies, under the waves.
All right, guys, I just want to do a quick little interruption. We're not done with this section, but I got to throw in a little caveat real quick before you watch it, because I just want to apologize now for the shaky, not so great quality footage. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but what I'm about to show you, they're about this big, you know, not the smallest, but not the biggest. They're about that big. You know, that's maybe 1/4 inch. The first one, the big one, and then they get smaller and smaller. On top of that, they're literally sitting in these like staghorn corals like this, real deep, like inside there. And I got to get the lights, I got to get the big lens. They're not holding still, so you're gonna get some really shaky footage. And they're also really shallow, so the surge is like pushing me back forward. I'm making every excuse in the book because I'll be honest, I almost didn't use this footage because it's not great, it's shaky and all that. But in the end, this species, it's been on my bucket list for years. I've never been able to find it. I've never seen it anywhere in the world. I know they're here. I've seen photos in certain places. I've never, out of thousands of dives, I could never find these guys. And then lo and behold, I build a dive resort, I walk out, and there's 4 different species of each. I was like, they were here the whole time, and now they're... Anyway, let's just get into it. I just want to say I'm sorry now for the not spectacular footage, okay?
Bearded gobies. So at all of the photo competitions I've followed, I always saw amazing shots of these colorful and tiny bearded gobies. And of course that made me want to find and film them for you guys, but I was never able to find a single one, until now that is. Right out in front of the resort is a bunch of clumps of staghorn corals, and lo and behold, there they were. And not only a single one, or even a single species of bearded, but 3. So even though they are super conveniently located, just 30-second swim from the beach, they are still very hard to film. First of all, being so shallow and near the shore, we get pushed back and forth by the surge, making it hard to stay still for a smooth shot. On top of that, the goby is maybe an inch long and hiding deep inside the staghorn, making it hard for the camera to focus, even if I could stay steady. But nevertheless, I was able to get a few good shots and put them together to show you one of the cutest little fish ever. That red one was high on my wish list, but so was this bright yellow one, as well as the neon green one with the blue eyes that you will see in a minute. I can't believe I was able to cross so many species from my diver's bucket list just on this one site right in front of the dive resort. Did you know that there are over 200 species of gobies in the Philippines alone? Even new ones are being discovered all the time. Heck, I even know a marine biologist in town who does nothing but study gobies and even has books published about them. Anyways, suffice it to say that if you really wanted to, you can make a list of all the gobies here and go on a quest to document them all. I love stuff like that, but maybe out of all the gobies, the bearded ones should be at the top of your list. In this clip, I stopped filming with my macro camera for a second and whipped out my GoPro to try to show you where these tiny gobies live. On any given dive, no matter which direction you look, there's going to be something interesting going on by some weird creature of the deep. That makes scuba diving in the Philippines the most exciting in my opinion, because every dive is like being a kid on Easter morning and going on your Easter egg hunts. Or maybe a treasure hunt where you just don't know what you're about to run into. Alright, we are almost done here, but I don't think any compilation video of species of Dauin would be complete without turtles. Alright, just turtles. People ask, I push these out of the way. Get out of my face. I'm trying to film this octopus. They come down, slap me on the head. I'm like, I'm busy. They get jealous of my camera. They want to be filmed. We go out. I saw 34 on one dive, in one 60-minute dive the other day. I could sit on my balcony right here and see them coming up for air. There's just so many. And how do I know? Besides seeing them all day, how do I know there's so many? Well, there's actually a conservation group. I'll put it on the screen because I can't pronounce the name. But they go out and study all the turtles and track them and everything, trying to find and track and see where they go. And they found out that right here on my dive site, and now it's my house reef, there's more concentration of turtles than anywhere. More than Dauin, more than Apple Island, more than any other dive site in Dauin. They're right here. And how do they know? Well, right here on the side of their face, there's like a spot pattern, and it's unique to every individual. So they could use it like a fingerprint, identify them, and tell you their name, where they're usually found, where they've been, stuff like that. They track them. So I tell my guests, if you come here, take a photo of all the turtles right here on their face, because and submit it to this Facebook group, because if you find one that they actually have it named out of the 500 something turtles around Dauin, if you actually find one that's not named yet, you can name it. All right. So we actually did, not me, but the conservation guys found a new one, I think last week, out of like 50 that they saw in the day. So yeah, you get to name it. And if you're a guest here and you find a freaking new turtle, you better name it like Critter Junior or something cool. All right, that's just good branding. Anyway, turtles, man. All right, I think we're gonna call that a day. This video's gone long enough. I used most of the footage, at least the species. Like, of course, there might be one little species of Trepania nudibranch, and I'll have like 10 minutes of footage. I didn't use it all, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many that I didn't use yet. I have terabytes of footage that this video would be like 10 hours long if I used it all, and believe me, it was freaking tempting. It's really hard to not use some of the footage, but all I wanted to do was give you kind of an update, kind of a taste of what's out here in Dauin, a reason to come here and film, or just have a leisurely dive, because there's just so much to see. Every dive is like a treasure hunt, or it feels like when you're a little kid doing an Easter egg hunt, and your mom says go, and all the kids run out and looking for the little Easter egg hunts hidden everywhere, eggs hidden everywhere, or like going on a treasure hunt. You don't even know what you're gonna see that day. No expectations, go out. Oh, I've never filmed that, I've never seen that. It's like that every single day, and take it from me, that has 1,000 dives here, and I still see stuff every single day that I've never seen, definitely never filmed. It's just, every day is new. It's awesome.
That being said, these episodes are really long and expensive. I've been editing this one for about a month, and it takes a lot of time. If you guys ever wanted to support this channel, support our journey, me and Judea, please consider being a member, a YouTube member. The link is down below. It's like a big button. You just click join, and there's there's different tiers, little options with different benefits. We're growing a pretty good community there, and it's a great way to support this channel. It only costs like a couple dollars a month even, but it adds up. There's a lot of you, so it really helps out a lot. I mean, these things right here are not cheap, you know. These cameras that bring you 4K footage of macro species the size of a freaking grain of rice, paying my guides, and it's a lot. So even just watching this video, you are supporting us so much. And me and Judea, the whole crew here at Critter Republic, Critter Hunter, just know that you are appreciated, all of you. So thank you very much. If you want to join us in other ways, you can book a room, come diving with us. You can email me. Go to our website, critterrepublic.com, and check out our group trips. We're doing I think Maldives is fully booked for December, but then I know we have Romblon. We still have spots for that. We have Romblon in May. We probably have 8 spots yet. I've barely even promoted it yet. And then we got Mexico next year. We're doing the cenotes and a group trip in November, I believe. And then we're going to Saudi Arabia. We're talking about Palau and Indonesia. We got a lot of cool stuff. If you guys want to do some scuba travel, you might as well just join me. So yeah, whatever you do, I thank you guys so much for the support. In fact, if you watch to the very end of this really long video, you're a critter nerd like me, you're my people. Let me know you watched to the very end of the video. Put like a fish emoji in the comments below. Let me know. I want to see how many fish are in the actual comments. So, all right, with that, I'll let you guys get out of here. I will see you on the next one.